Hi, guys. I'm live. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever it is you're tuning in from. How are we doing today? Yep, it is another episode on faith, and today it's faith in purpose. No, it's not faith in purpose. That was yesterday. Ah, faith in provision. Actually, I'm going to change it from faith in to faith for. So rather than let me say faith in provision, it is faith for provision. And I'm going to focus on that today and take you through my journey as to how I got from being totally, you know, like dependent on my own means to dependent on God for provision through faith. So take you back to the story I was talking about yesterday, where I lost my business and literally I was absolutely broke, had no money, nothing at all. I was actually claiming benefits at that point because I had nothing. I'd owed the bank lots of money, over 10, 15,000 pounds I'd owed the bank. I'd owed individual people money, friends money, so it was an absolute nightmare. And I was living in a room, and then and I was only being able to pay the rent because I was actually claiming benefits. So you can imagine this scenario. And to top it off, sometimes I didn't even have money for bus, let alone money to eat. I used to kind of like decide what days was I'm going to eat and what days was I'm not going to eat, because like it wouldn't last me for a whole week. Um, so, and it was really bad as well because I have gluten intolerance. So at that point in time, there was only certain foods I could eat, and gluten intolerant food was the most expensive. So yeah, it was not a great period of time. And I know I kind of like was thinking, how am I going to get through this? Like, how am I ever going to be in a position where I could live again? Because when I was married, I had a nice house, I had big cars, I had all those things, I would regularly be with celebrities. It was just like they'll come to the home, all that kind of stuff. So my life was, I was living the high life. I was like right up there. And then suddenly I went all the way down to the point that I could not even imagine I would ever be. And that was hard, even from the business point of view. I sold everything, all my equipment I sold, my laptop I sold, anything that I had that was worth of any value I sold in order to pay for wages. And still I didn't have enough. Still I was in trouble. Still I had Baileys knocking on my door. So yeah, I have had Baileys knocking on my door, demanding money and threatening me in the worst possible way. There was a period where my mum was even living with me, and it was just like, yeah, it continued even to the point where I did manage to get myself an apartment. It was really, really bad. But this was a season where God was teaching me about his provision. And it was a season where God was showing me that everything comes from him. And it's very difficult for you to believe that when the physical representation of that does not match up. And this is where faith comes in. Because you got to have the faith to believe that everything comes from him, and the faith that he will give you accordingly to what is required, what you need. And God knows what you need. Like, do you think he didn't see me sitting on the floor saying, God, how am I going to pay these bills? How am I going to sort the council out? How am I going to stop the bailiffs from coming? Do you think he didn't see all the pain that I was going through? Of course he did. But do you think he didn't know that you were going to get through it? I was going to get through it with his help. If only I could have that faith to believe in him. And it starts from a faith of a mustard seed. Now, in the Bible, it does talk about if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you will say to the mountain, move, and it be moved. And the thing is that the faith starts that small, but it grows, because as you start to believe in faith, you start to realize that actually, you know what? There's substance to this faith. It is not just thin air. It is not just me believing in something airy fairy. Something's actually happening. And for the very first thing that God taught me was about 10%, his 10% tithing. That took a while because, I'd get money in, whatever that was, whether it was from the council or what have you. And I would be like, I don't have enough money to pay the tithes. So I would try and pay all these other things, which it didn't go far. I even had to take a job at Amazon. That was how bad it was. I worked at Amazon, and Amazon, they absolutely kill you. If anyone's worked for Amazon, if anybody's working for Amazon, you know that I'm telling you the truth right now. When I tell you that you are treated 100% like robots. And I went in and I was probably a size 12 when I first started. When I came out of Amazon, I was a size 6. I had lost so much weight because I was constantly on my feet all throughout. It was like 10-hour, 12-hour shifts. It was also during the Christmas period. So then you had to do overtime. And I was grateful for the overtime because I was grateful for the money because I had all these bills I had to pay. So I was like, you know what? I don't care how much I've got to work. I don't care about it. But I'm just going to get hold of all this money so I can pay all the people that I owe. But what I didn't do was I didn't give God his 10%, because I got the amount of money in. I was like, okay, I'm going to pay for this. I'm going to pay for that. And at the end of it all, I had no money to pay God. And this whole cycle continued because God's like, well, you clearly don't know that everything comes from me. You are still looking at it from a position of, this is all you have. No, this is not all you have. You have got abundance. I have got everything stored up in heaven for you if you would only call it down. But in order for you to call it down, you've got to first believe. So paying tithes is not because God needs the money. He doesn't need the money. He's trying to teach us a principle so that we understand that everything comes from him. And it's like you give your child, a packet of sweets, and they give you like one sweet back. It's their understanding of saying, actually, Daddy, Mummy, I know this has come from you and I just want to give you back. Because they know they've got that assurance that you gave it to them. But when we don't have assurance that God gives it to us, what do? We try and go like this, and then we think, oh, I haven't got enough to give to God, as if he's in the scarcity business. He's not in the scarcity business. He is in the abundance business. God is in the abundance business. So how did I get to the position where I started to put God in relation to my finances? I had to visualize it. I had to visualize that in heaven, there was this big, massive vault, like full of money. And such a vault that was never depleted. So it's not like if he gives the money to you, then suddenly there's not enough for me. It's funds that never gets depleted. And that ties up with the Bible where, I don't know if you remember the woman with the oil, where she was just about to serve her last meal so that she and her son would die because her husband had died. And she was told to bring as many vessels as possible as she could find. And then the oil would not stop pouring until all the vessels were filled. And that's the scenario. God is like literally saying that I have got abundance, but I will only fill what you have presented for me to fill. And that is based on your level of faith. The amount of jars that she got was based on her level of faith. This is all the amount that I've got. She might have at some point gone, okay, you know what? This is never going to be able to fill more than this. So this is all that I can gather, But actually, if she had more, she would have got more. And that's the thing. But it is about living in faith. So I constantly picture big, massive vault. Big, 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 massive vault. You cannot fathom the size of it. And it's just full with money of all resources, everything, any resource that you would need, it's in there. But we call it down. But, God is such a faithful God that he gives us a mechanism for us to engage with that fault by saying, okay, when money comes in, the first amount, give it back to me, because that is you letting me know that you understand it's come from me. And it doesn't matter what it might look like physically on the ground. Know that you've got access to all of this, and that's why God can multiply it, because he says, okay, you've given me this. I'm going to multiply it. I'm going to multiply it because it comes from me. So no one can multiply money like God can, forget the stock exchange, forget Bitcoin, forget all of this stuff. God is the multiplier of all our resources. And it works, and it's true. So when I then started putting on my 10%, because I came to a conclusion like, well, can't pay for what I need to pay for anyway, because it's not enough. It's not enough. So I've got to look to the one that is enough, that has everything that is enough, that, he sees everything that I'm going through, and he knows how and when to pour it down. So I started giving my 10%. No matter what it was, no matter what came in, no matter how little or how much it was, I would give my 10%. You know, when I first started, it was hard because, like, I'm looking at money coming in and maybe I've got the exact amount that I need to pay for a particular bill, but by the time I give God 10%, I don't have enough. But I was like, you're either doing this or you're not. You're either living in faith or you're not. There is no half wits about this, you know. You either believe that God has everything or you don't. This is faith. This is faith. But like I said, faith starts with a vision. So I had to visualize it, that this is what God has got for me and he will give it to me. But then, so when I started paying my tithes, I started realizing that money was coming, but not on abundance, but it was just like bits and pieces and things. And maybe it was a door that would open, or maybe it was, God will tell me, I know you don't have any money, but if you take that bus, they're not going to charge you. And I'd be like, oh gosh, I'm a bit scared to take the bus. Like, what if the conductor comes? What if this, that, what if? So all my what ifs, all my negativity, all my fears were coming in, but God had spoken. Because God had given me favor, and I'll talk about favor tomorrow. I'm not going to dwell too much on that. But sometimes God doesn't use money because it's not about the money. It's about getting the thing done. It's about provision. And God will decide how he's going to bring that provision into your life. Whether it's through somebody giving you something, giving you food, somebody preparing a meal for you because you can't afford to actually buy a meal. It's not about money, it's about provision. God is not he is not the God of money, he's the provider, he's the God of provision. And whatever that provision is, God will bring it down. And it's about listening to him and trusting that it exists and he's got it all. So it started from that. And then God's like, well, you know what? Not only do I want to teach you in this period about understanding where money comes. So don't live from the position of scarcity, but live from the position of abundance. It's already yours. It's already yours. But I'm not just going to give it to you like a father gives to a spoilt child. No, there's got to be discipline in it. So I need to know that you could steward this money. So God then started to teach me how to steward money. And in stewarding, that was an absolute nightmare because it was like, okay, suddenly you get a little bit of money in and then you're like, I'm going to spend it on this, I'm going to spend it on that. And God's like, no, like I need to know what you want to spend your money on. And then I need to be sure that you're going to spend it on exactly what you've told me you're going to spend it on. And this is the conversation I would have with God. And it got to a point where I was like, okay, God, this is all my bills. This is everything. And I laid everything on the ground. I was like, this is everything. I don't have enough, God. Sort it. And bit by bit, God didn't take it all away in one go. No. God was like, well, I need you to itemize it. How much is this? How much is that? And then God will tell me, okay, some money's coming, pay for this. Some money's coming, pay for that. Sometimes, I'm not going to lie to you, I'd say to God, I need money for this, and then I'll go buy something else because, hey, it's a night out. We want to go out, want to have some fun, what have you. But boy, did I pay for that. Because God's like, well, you clearly haven't learned. So you know what? You need to go back to school. And then we'll start again. And it will start all the way back at the little bit. And God was so tight with my money. It was not my money, but with his money. Because God wants to know that if you could steward a small amount, then you could steward a large amount. God is not going to give you abundance if you can't steward a small amount, And you've got to also understand it's not your money, it's God's money. It's not your money. So if he says use it for this, then use it for what God has asked you or told you to use it for, because you never know why. Only God knows. Sometimes, I remember once I was walking in the street and God said to me, draw out some money and give this man, I think it was £20 or something along those lines. And I was just like, gosh, was that God? Because I'm like, £20 for me was a lot of money in those days. It was. It really was, because I was the kind of person that would count my pennies. I would count pennies. I would look under the cushion to see if there was any money that had fallen. I would go into my pockets. And to this very day, I still do that because I kind of store bits of money in different things, in my bags, in my pockets, so that I'm like, for a rainy day, just in case I need it, I'll go in. And so that's what I used to do. So I'll go into my pockets, I'll go into everything, I'll tip over the house, I'll be like, I need 15 pence. And then I'll find it and then I'll use it. So when God said to me, give this guy £20, and he was a guy on the streets of Birmingham, because that's where I lived at the time. And, and I just walked up to him, went to the cash point. I walked past him, and that was when God said, go back, go to the cash point. I went to the cash point, drew out some money, and then just handed it to him. And then he said, thank you very much, God bless you. And I was like, wow. And then when I turned around to look at him, he'd gone, wasn't there. And I felt to myself, I think that was an angel. Because God will also test you with how you're stewarding his money, whether you're listening to him, whether God says give, whether you would give, or whether you'd say, no, this is mine, So at this point, I have gotten, when it comes to money, I will give. Like, I will give. Whatever God says to me to do, I will do. And I guess that's why I'm so big on charity. I'm so big on giving, because, like, I know it's not mine. I'm not, it's for me. Abundance flows through me so it can flow through to others, not so that it can just give me like a great lifestyle or what have you. And and I'm not telling you that I'm there yet, because there are still things in my life that I still need to sort out, but God is guiding me as to what to do, how to do it, where to go, who to give to, at what point to give to, ABC, because you don't know whether God is taking somebody else through that whole process where he wants them to know that everything comes from him. I remember another scenario, and I had like this really, really expensive bag, like I'd bought. And God's like, go sell it. And I'm like, what? God's like, go sell it. And I'm like, okay. Thinking like, if I sold it, because it wasn't that long I'd actually bought the bag, thinking if I'd sold it, I'd get like a good return for it. So I went to the shop to go and sell the bag. And they offered me some ridiculous amount. I was like, no way, Jose. Like, do you not know what this bag is? Like, what? You want me to? It's not going to happen. And I remember walking out of the shop. And as I was walking, I heard God say, go and sell the bag for that amount. And I was like, God, really? Like, it's nothing. It's nothing, God. It's not worth, it's worth way more than that. And God's like, to me, it's not worth anything. You are worth way more than that. But I want you to understand that when things come your way, no matter how big it is, no matter how grand it may look like, it has no value compared to what you are, compared to what people are to me. They are my children. They're my sons and my daughters. That's where the value is. Do not hold your value in anything that you own. Be ready to let it go, because it will be here today, gone tomorrow. God could give you abundance of everything. At the same time, he can take it away. Look at Job. So it's not about trying to hold on to these things. It's not about not having them. And I know in the Bible it says the love of money is of all evil, but it's not to say that money is evil. It's to say that if you hold money like a god, if you hold money like so tightly, if you cling on to it, and if that drives you, then it becomes a god, and it becomes a problem and an issue, and it becomes a stronghold in your life. I have been when I have had nothing, and I've still survived, because God has given me provision. And no matter where I'm at now and where I'm going to be in the future, I will always know provision comes from God. And every day it's about learning how to steward it well. Because as he gives you more, you're going to have to steward more. And you need to get to a position where it doesn't matter how much it is, that you will always give God the first fruit. Always. Because I remember having a conversation with a friend. I was like, if you had £10,000 or 100,000 and you had to walk to your church and give 10,000 in one go, would you be able to do it? The answer is, if you've not been doing it when it's been small, you're never going to do it when it's large. And even though you say to yourself, when I get to this point, then I will, you will never do it, because you couldn't do it at this small amount. You need to be in a position where it doesn't matter how much money comes in. That first fruit, that first 10% goes to God. Why? Because you know, no matter what avenue it came into your life, it always comes from God. God always, always blesses you, and he wants to bless you more. But you've just got to understand that we serve a God of abundance, not a God of lack, not a God of scarcity. Abundance. Abundance exists. Visualize it, picture it, see how big that vault is. It is way beyond you can even think or imagine. And the thing is, it does not get depleted. It is there, the size of your faith, and God will dish it out as he needs to. First, to teach you how to be a good steward of your money. If you're not a good steward of your money, you can just forget it. Be a good steward of your money in all the areas. Pay your tithes, give to the needy, invest, save, spend. Those things, be a good steward. And you will see the abundance of God on this earth, and I've seen it because I've experienced it. So I know it's true. I know it's true. I'm not talking from theory. I'm talking because this was my life. This was my life. And it was a horrible, dark season. But God brought me through it. And God needed to bring me through it because everything that God takes you through aligns with the purpose that he has for you. If I can't steward the small amount of money that I have at this point, how am I going to be able to steward the large amount of money he's going to give me to be able to work my ministry that he's given to me? It's just not going to happen. So God puts you in a scenario where no matter whether you're on the hilltop or you're in the valley, he will provide for you. He is the God of provision. But in order for you to believe that, you got to first of all step in faith and know that it exists by faith, and he provides for you by faith, and you will see the manifestation of that provision in the life and the world that we live in. And that's it for today. If that's you, if you're struggling financially and you're just wondering how am I gonna make ends meet, just know that there is abundance in heaven. It exists. It's there. It is there. But there is an order in heaven as well. Start paying your tithes. Start paying your tithes. Doesn't matter what it is. Start paying your tithes. 10%. God knows what you've got. He will bring things. I have had money just like delivered to me. I've not even asked for it. Exact amounts delivered. Not asked for it. I've had double the amount delivered. Not asked for it. I've had favor. We'll talk about that tomorrow. But God's provided in every single season. He provides for us. Let us not be fearful of man. Let us not put money as a God, but know that the God, the Almighty Father, owns everything. And he wants to give it to you. Why? Because he loves you. He loves you so much. He loves you so much. It's not easy to walk in faith when it comes to finance. I know that. I get that. That's why so many of people are in bondage over it. The fear of them losing their job, the fear of them not being able to provide for their family, the fear of all these things stops you from walking in abundance. But I can tell you right now, there is abundance over you, over your life. You've got to know how to steward it though. Because when it comes, it also comes with its challenges. And if you let those challenges overcome you, you will not know how to handle it. You will not know how to handle it. As much as you think you do, you're not going to. So that's it. Stay in prayer and take your own vision. Fix your eyes on God and know that he is, by faith, the provider, the God of all provision. Take care, guys. And guess who else loves you? I love you. But you know what? My love is a small fraction of God's love. So if you've got to choose between the two, choose his love. Take care. See you tomorrow. Bye.